in Tough Fantasy Baseball today on Wednesday, March 11th. I am Frank Stampfl, joined by Scott White and Chris Towers, plus a special guest. We'll get to him in just a second. Today on the show, we are talking pitching, the names that we've been watching closely this spring, but also who is rising up the draft board. Should we buy in? To help us do that, friend of the show, Nick Pollack. Nick Pollack, how you doing, buddy?
Oh, I'm doing great, Frank. I appreciate you so much. I really do. And of course, you, Chris, and Scott, you're looking wonderful. The situation you've got is great now. I love the bookcase. It's fantastic.
You don't miss grandma's living room?
I mean, I don't think I've ever said that phrase in my life. So.
You were the one who I think suggested I get a backdrop with that photo printed on it so that it was like I never left. That was your suggestion.
Maybe you put in a frame photo on that. But
that'd be a good one. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to say, maybe get a photorealistic painter to paint it on the wall behind you.
Oh, yeah.
It would have been fun if Nick just showed up in Scott's old living room. There was one episode one time where Scott wasn't here and Nick kind of photoshopped Scott's background behind.
You don't know how much I watched this YouTube channel for the one moment that Scott White dipped down just a little bit so that I could freeze it and get the background.
For those who don't know, you should, but if you don't, Nick Pollack, he is the founder of Pitcher List. You can find his top 400 starting pitchers. I believe there's a new top 100 coming out later this week over at pitcherlist.com. I know that you also have a ton of podcasts and live streams that you do on Twitch. So why don't you let everyone know what you've got going on right now?
Oh, gosh. Join me in the morning, twitch.tv/pitcherlist. I go over all the spring training games from yesterday pitchers, obviously. And we have 20 million things. We got a live draft assistant. We got a draft guide. We've got podcast galore, but the coolest thing ever is to hang out with Chris Towers on our PL Plus Discord. It's just the best way to enjoy the site. It's ad-free, and we get the greatest baseball community ever. That's where Chris Towers hangs out all the day.
It's good people.
You want to talk to me and Chris? Yeah, you gotta get PL Plus, guys.
Yeah, I do enjoy this. These new graphics that you guys are putting out on X too. The Pitcher List PLV X account that is putting out these plots of where pitches are moving in spring training and grades and all these things. It seems really helpful.
Oh, I appreciate that. Yeah, we worked a long time creating those. Those aren't AI generated charts or something. We've been spending a year trying to make a good visual design and get models that actually tell you things that matter. It's a lot of hard work by Kyle Bland, and we cannot believe that 100,000 followers in 24 hours.
That was
I don't understand what happened.
I saw the number earlier. I was like, "Oh, this is a new account." What does that say? 114 followers? Right? No, 114K.
I don't understand.
That's crazy.
It's double my main one.
Yeah,
I'm jealous of it now. I don't get it.
That is pretty awesome stuff, man. So shout out to you guys putting out some great work. The good news here is that Nick Pollack is here with us. The bad news, we've got to start there. Hunter Greene, we got an update finally, and here's what we know. Bone chips and loose bodies in his elbow, but there is no damage to his UCL, so he was right about that part. He is getting the elbow scoped, and the hope is that he'll return in July. Scott, is Hunter Greene worth drafting in a standard 12-team mixed league?
I mean, if Spencer Schwellenbach isn't, then I don't know why Hunter Greene would be, because it's the same procedure, basically, right? It's the same timetable. I don't think it's a clear timetable in either case, right? They're just hoping, mid-season, maybe he'll be fine. Hunter Greene and Schwellenbach, they were being drafted in the same range prior to this news. So I would say no. Now, I did take Schwellenbach in the reserve rounds of the Memorial Magazine League, league where 360 players are rostered and there are 5 IL spots to play with. So I'm not going to put a strict hard line no on it, but it has to be the right circumstances, and it has to be very late, and it has to be a situation where you feel like you could stash him for a long time with possibly no payoff.
Yeah, I think if you're in a 15-team league, no IL, one of those NFBC leagues, it probably takes him not entirely off your board, but it's going to be really hard to stomach a 0 for 3 months. That would suck if it happened to anyone who's already drafted. Say they spent a 3rd round pick on Hunter Greene. That would be really unfortunate. But in a 12-team league with an IL spot, I do think it is different than Spencer Schwellenbach's injury, just because while it's the same type of injury, Spencer Schwellenbach did miss half of last season with a shoulder injury, or an elbow injury, excuse me, goes through the whole offseason and can't get through even, 5 days of spring training before suffering a setback. Greene, I know he did have this injury last year. Part of that is we know he can pitch through this injury and pitch effectively, because he did last year. And so I think, look, complications are possible in any situation when you're having surgery. It's entirely possible they open him up and discover that the injury is more severe than they first thought. That happens sometimes. But I think the median outcome is probably Hunter Greene has less injury risk and less performance risk than Spencer Schwellenbach. So I did rank him. I kind of just moved him down to where I have Shane McClanahan, another pitcher who I think has some upside this year, but has some real question marks. Maybe that's too high for Hunter Greene, knowing that he'll miss three months probably at least. But that was my first thought.
Well,
I'm much more likely to move him down than up, though.
I mean, at least with Shane McClanahan, you will be able to make a quicker decision.
Yes.
Right. And it does depend on your IL spots, of course. Even if you want to say you have one IL spot, I probably still wouldn't do it, because I don't trust my own discipline to say when it's the third week of April and I have my first guy in the IL that I'm going to drop Hunter Greene then, right?
Mm-hmm.
I just, even though it's obvious, of course you're going to do it. I hate myself as a manager sometimes. So I just won't put myself in that position. That's why I'm not drafting Corbin Burns. That's why I'm not drafting Justin Steele, right? These other guys we expect at the middle of the season, as opposed to the Garrett Cole side, the Zach Wheeler side, the Carlos Rodon side, maybe even Jared Jones, who's faster, I think, than the others as well. Those are part of the other IL stashes that I would certainly favor over Hunter Greene.
Yep, I agree.
Nick, that was weird. Why did you say Justin Steele's name like that?
I know, because I don't have the soundboard. Justin Steele.
There you go. Much better. I updated the rankings earlier. I dropped Hunter Greene down to SP 95, 302nd overall, one spot ahead of Spencer Schwellenbach. So pretty much right in line with what you were saying earlier, Scott. Nick, do you have any interest in who replaces Hunter Greene here? It looks like one of Rhett Lauder or Brandon Williamson. Lauder is the better prospect. Williamson, I guess, has had the better spring. Do you care about either?
Well, so Rhett Lauder to me isn't very interesting. I know he had a really good season in 24. It was very fortunate when he did, and it's not much of an arsenal that's exciting. There might be something more in like the sinker slider that he has that actually gets results, but really to be a guy that you roster in Cincinnati, it needs to be very impressive and something that's very repeatable and believable. Otherwise, you're putting yourself in a big risk for home runs and just a much worse ERA than you want. Brandon Williamson has proven before that he can be successful there if he has his cutter working inside to right-handers and change up away, kind of like the swatch, the southpaw, the tight changeup. And he actually went today and threw a really good cutter at 90 miles per hour and got it inside on right-handers consistently. 3 innings, 0 runs, 3 strikeouts, 4 whiffs on 40 pitches, 1 hit, 0 walks. And I wouldn't be shocked if Williamson did get the chance. He's coming back, I believe, from Tommy John. It's unclear really right now, but I wouldn't be chasing either one. They might be the first week pickup kind of guy instead of someone that I'm circling and seeing how they do out of the gate.
All right, let's quickly move through the rest of the news before we get to some of those spring risers here. How about some good news? Corbin Carroll will make his Cactus League debut as the DH on Wednesday. He is less than a month removed from having that right hamate bone surgery. I guess it's good news that he's back. I also kind of worry a little bit about him returning too soon. Chris, worry you at all with Corbin Carroll?
I feel like people would roll their eyes if I spent the entire spring saying my concern is that Corbin Carroll's not going to be ready for opening day, and then I turned around and said, oh, now I'm concerned he's coming back too early. I feel like that would be a kind of silly thing to do. So, look, I'm not a doctor. I do not have access to Corbin Carroll's medical records or anything like that. I assume if they're clearing him, he's healed. This is a relatively minor surgery, so it's earlier than I would have expected, but it's not totally unprecedented for a player to come back this soon from a hamate bone injury. There was one I was looking the other day. There was someone who came back in like 22 days return to action. So it's possible. But
yeah, I mean,
it's a little risky, but I think you'd rather him be playing tomorrow than not, right?
yeah, I just want to stress, given the nature of the injury, that like being back doesn't mean Corbin Carroll's out of the woods, because at least in my case, it was never the timetable for return that concerned me. It was what is his power production after he returns. Not that I think it would be gone permanently, but a lot of times with a hamate bone injury, we see it take a few months for a player's power to return. But not always. You know, if Corbin Carroll comes in, you know, homers in his first game back, okay, I guess he's back in my first round. That might be all it takes for me to say. And I know even in the earliest days of the injury, he had only fallen to like 15th in ADP, so I pushed him down a lot further than the consensus. But that might be all it takes for me to be right back on board. If he's going to be there for opening day. Okay, we have some evidence of the power production still. There's a lot to like about Corbin Carroll overall, obviously. So if I can get him at the end of round one, you know, I might be back on board with that. And I know last report on Francisco Lindor, it sounded like he was optimistic for opening day still. And I think things are looking up for Jackson Holiday too.
Yeah, Orioles kind of walked back because remember when they initially announced it, they said he's going to start the season on the IL. The last I saw, it's like, okay, no, Jackson Holiday might be ready for opening day. So, yeah, these guys are all doing really well. My biggest concern is once they are healthy,
yes,
is just getting enough reps to avoid a slow start. And so, assuming they're healthy, my understanding is while not everybody avoids setbacks or side effects from this when they play, for the most part, it's just a question of it healing. And then you should be okay. It's just they are all moving very quickly. They might not get the reps they need, but, you know, if Carroll's playing on Wednesday, he's going to get, you know, 30 plate appearances, 40 plate appearances probably before the end of the spring. So as long as he's healthy, I think he should be okay. So we'll watch the StatCast data to see, you know, if he's hitting the ball with the normal authority. But yeah, I'm starting to think Corbin Carroll, at least in a 15-team league, back in the first round for me.
We do have an update on Lindor, by the way. He progressed to playing 4 innings in a minor league spring game on Tuesday. So it sounds like he's getting closer to returning to actual game action as well. Josh Hader said his 15-pitch bullpen session was, quote, all positive. So this was the first time throwing off a mound since being diagnosed with left biceps inflammation. We'll see how he responds. Derek Gould of the St. Louis Post-Dispatch named 4 different Cardinals relievers that could be part of a closer by committee. Riley O'Brien, Jojo Romero, Matt Swanson, and Ryan Stanek. So we just kind of assumed it would be 2 guys, but it might be 4. It's not great. Blake Snell.
I've been intrigued by Matt Swanson for a long time, and it just seemed like last year Oliver Marmol showed no interest in trying him in the 9th inning, so I presumed it would be status quo. But maybe it won't be. Maybe it'll be a little more open. Bad news for Riley O'Brien, who I was warming up to as a late round save source. I would still give him the edge, but Matt Swanson is interesting.
Would you call this the Marmol strategy?
A bunch of relievers. Why not? Blake Snell threw off the mound to a standing catcher on Tuesday. He's still expected to begin the season on the IL due to lingering shoulder issues from last year, but I guess progress. Trey Savage is scheduled.
Was that the catcher was supposed to be standing, or he just couldn't find the strike zone?
Oh, man, we're just going to... This is going to be a long one. All right. Trey Savage is scheduled to throw a 2-inning simulated game against minor leaguers on Wednesday. That leaves time for 2 more starts, though we don't know if those will happen in minor league games or real ones. And, Nick, we've actually heard a lot about Savage recently being slow played, and they want him to have innings for later in the season and into the postseason. It's been, I don't know, a little bit kind of mysterious the way that they're handling Trey Savage. Have you lowered him in your rankings with the way he's being treated right now?
He is a really tough one to rank because the way that they're treating him kind of means like in 3 weeks into the season, he'll be just completely fine. Right? So. The whole thing is about, hey, you had the most rest ever entering 2025, and now you're having the least amount of rest because of the World Series push. So they just want to give him more time. That's all this is. And all right, so they're going to add like 3 weeks essentially to the plan. That's what they're doing. So I often think about this, like on May 1st, how are you going to feel? Right. And if you have Trey Savage on May 1st, you're going to be happy. It means that I'm not going to move him down too much. There is a large glob of guys, to use Spore's term that is just, they're all very good. So yeah, this is a tiebreaker that pushes Savage down, but it's not like I'm pushing him out of my top 60 or anything like that.
Merrill Kelly will make his Cactus League debut this Friday. He's behind schedule due to mid-back tightness, but he is progressing. Kyle Stowers is scheduled to return to Grapefruit League play this Saturday. He's been slowed by a mild right hamstring strain. Josh Lowe is likely to begin hitting in minor league games this weekend as he works his way back from a left oblique issue. And Josh Young ran the bases on Tuesday, is hoping to return on Thursday. He's been out the past couple of weeks with a grade 1 adductor strain. Before we hit our first break,
can I follow up on Savage real quick? Do you guys think there is, given that they're slow playing him this spring, really beyond slow playing him, they don't think he's going to make a start in the Grapefruit League, and given that we just saw Max Scherzer throw 4 no-hit innings, and given that they've said they don't want to pile too many innings on Savage's arm at the start of the year, do you think there's a chance he's just not in the starting rotation to begin the year, that he's bumped for Max Scherzer? Because I'm trying to remember if it was the Roto World update or the Roto Wire update, but they floated that idea in that. Whoever wrote the update, I don't think it was part of the report they were citing. And it got me thinking,
So my thought
makes a lot of sense.
They just go 6-man because they have
that's what roster resource has right now. 6-man.
Yeah, they have Burrows, they have Scherzer, like they have rotation depth, but it is hard to do a 6-man rotation and have a guy limited, right? Like that's
only going 3 or 4 innings.
Yeah,
that's what John Schneider was saying originally for Savage.
You have a shorter bullpen because you have an extra starter, and you're going to have that guy short. So I mean, that's tough to balance. Yeah.
I don't know if I agree with that necessarily, just because if you have a 6-man rotation, actually what we generally see are the managers are more willing to push their starters deeper into the games and save the bullpen a little bit because they have more time to rest, right?
Sure.
So, I'll put it this way. Burrows is not very good.
Sure.
And I don't think that it's in the best interest of the Jays to completely take Savage out of a full-on rhythm. Like, he needs to get reps of some kind. I think they've even mentioned that they would be eliminating him into like 3-4 innings.
Yeah, that's what they were saying. And but different. They originally were saying for Max Scherzer that, we're just going to keep him around as somebody we could insert in the rotation later on, and then he has a huge spring start, and it's like, well, are you being totally forthright with us Blue Jays about your rotation plans? Because it sure seems like you're getting Scherzer ready in a hurry.
My first thought is that, is it a good team that he faced? Is it a good offense? A lot of guys are gone to the WBC. I'm seeing a lot of really good performances, and then checking out the lineup, being like, oh, none of these are.
Yeah, I mean, less about Scherzer pitching well, but just that he pitched.
Sure.
4 innings.
He pitched a true ramp-up start. He didn't just make a 1-inning cameo appearance.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm pretty worried. Yeah, I'm getting a little bit worried about Savage at his cost, and I like him. I thought he was being undervalued for the relative to Nolan McLean, especially. But now they're just. It seems like there's something new every day that points to the idea that the Blue Jays are going to slow play him, and that's going to make for a frustrating stash if you invest real draft capital in him.
On the other hand, more for a Roto League, but if we get to the end of the season, he throws 145 innings with a 3.20 ERA and 175 strikeouts and a 110 whip or whatever. April's going to, the 12 innings he throws in April are going to feel like a long time ago. So
that's true for any pitcher whose start is delayed, but those guys are usually lowered in the rankings because we're waiting for them to contribute.
Well, it is a little bit different because usually those are injured guys, and you don't really know what that timeline necessarily is, or if it's
Injured guys you can stash easier usually.
This feels well. I mean, it's not like Bubba Chandler last year, right? Like it's we know that Savage is going to be starting. It's going to be a little bit delayed, and I do agree with you, Scott, that maybe I am not putting that into account too much of just kind of the frustration of it and the unknown.
Yeah,
and it's why I think I have Savage probably like late 40s now, something like that. I'm curious where you have him. I think we might actually be aligned.
Oh, I'm probably ahead of that.
Yeah, he's
probably
about 40
ahead of
for
late
me.
40s, but I'm entertaining the idea of moving him down.
Okay, so I mean, we're not any real difference here. It's just kind of framing of.
No, I mean that was. It was a new thought I had just today, and
it's a good one.
Yeah, not formed enough to actually impact my rankings yet, but it's I'm starting to get a little nervous here. I mean, even the idea, okay, let's say they keep him on the roster, but 3 or 4 innings, would that be better served in a relief role as
right, it could be like behind Scherzer or something, or like even to Burrows because they might not trust him for 5
I think
innings.
Yeah, but I think if you're doing that with a young guy, you'd rather just have him have his normal routine, I would think.
Right. Maybe Burrows is the relief.
Yeah, maybe Burrows is the piggyback guy. Yeah.
I'm sorry, it's just such a bad 4-seamer. It's so bad.
Yeah.
So you weren't moved at all by the revelation that Burrows was pitching through an injury last year?
No.
Okay.
Fair. All right. Let's move on. Before we hit our first break here, just going to keep reminding everybody that when you're listening to this, tomorrow is our mock draft mega stream. That is Thursday, March 12th, starting at 3:30 p.m. Eastern time. We will do 4 drafts in a row. We're live streaming all of them. We're going to be live for like 7 hours. It's going to be crazy. But our first draft will be 12-team roto on CBS with our buddy Vlad Sedler. At 5 p.m. Eastern time, we will do a 12-team head-to-head categories on Yahoo with Joe Arico. At 6:30, we will do 12-team head-to-head points on ESPN with Ariel Cohen. And then 8 p.m. Eastern time, RotoWire Online Championship over at the NFBC. That is a 12-team roto with an overall component. And if anybody wants to compete in the first 3 drafts, we still have a few spots available. So hit me up on Twitter, X, at @Roto_Frank. Let me know which draft you want to be in and attach your email. Let's take that break. We'll be back right after this.
When you need your sports news all the time,
we've got breaking news to bring to you.
CBS Sports HQ gives you a snapshot of all the sports that matter to you. When you need your sports in a snap, find it on CBS Sports HQ, streaming free anywhere you are.
Welcome back in Fantasy Baseball. Today, we are talking pitchers that we've been watching very closely throughout spring training. We'll get to some risers as well. We're here with our buddy Nick Pollack from Pitcher List. And look, I don't think we need to spend too much time on this name because I think we're in all agreement, and we have talked about him a lot lately. Spencer Strider, in his first spring start, the fastball, just 93 miles per hour. It was down 2.5 miles per hour from last year. And then in his second spring start, yes, the velocity was up, but still down compared to last year. And he had 0 whiffs on the fastball and just 1 called strike. So, Nick, we were joking beforehand. You've been fading Spencer Strider since before it was cool to fade Spencer Strider. I imagine nothing has changed for you.
Nothing has changed.
Yes.
Until we see elite Spencer Strider, I'm not in because Spencer Strider is not your crafty pitcher who, okay, if I don't have that elite fastball, I still have all these other things. I know how to attack guys. No, he needs that fastball. Otherwise, it's I'd rather go for someone else who has a higher ceiling then.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's kind of being treated like he still has a high ceiling, and that's why it's like, yeah, he might be bad, but we'll take him 25th or whatever, and because the upside is so, but like, we just haven't really seen, like, I know there was a stretch at the beginning of last season where he was better than the total numbers, but the fastball was still not very good. I think that got figured out pretty quickly.
And don't forget, Rocky Road, that is the Rockies on the road, are all a right-handed lineup, and they're so susceptible to a slider down away from a right-hander. That's what Spencer Strider did. Had 15 strikeouts.
Bryce Elder did have an 11 strikeout game.
Right, Grant Holmes had 12.
Yeah, but it was a 9-start stretch with 11 K per 9. It wasn't just the Rockies start.
15 Ks in 6 innings or something will help a bit.
It helped.
Yeah. It definitely did. But all right, I think we're all in agreement there on Strider. His ADP in March is 119. He's still the SP 26, and we've mentioned like in some of these high stakes drafts, he's still being drafted really, really high. So Spencer Strider at that cost, I think it's going to be a no for all of us. Let's talk about Shane McClanahan. His first spring start was on March 3rd. He averaged 93.8 miles per hour on his fastball. That was down 3 miles per hour from the last time we saw him in the majors, which was 2 years now at this point, and 2 years, 3 years. I think it was 3 years.
2023. It was like August of 2023.
Yeah.
And his curve was down 4.5 miles per hour. His second start, fastball bumped up a little bit, but still down quite a bit. The curve, the slider, down between like 3 and 4 miles per hour. So, Nick, what have you seen from Shane O'Mac here in spring?
Yeah, McShane. Look, I am a McClanahan fan. Don't get me wrong. But if this is hard to see, right? I mean, the first one, he was public about it, which is understandable. Hey, 80%, no velocity on the scoreboard on purpose. Like, just go out there and pitch and experience it again. But you would think by the second one, he would turn on the Jets a little bit more than 94. And I understand turning on the Jets can be depressing. Yes, that's a football joke. But what I mean is that you would think he would do it. And I know this wasn't quite there. It's a little different than Strider because McClanahan isn't just about velocity. His changeup is fantastic. His slider is great. His curveball is as well. And I would not just say that this is who he is now. It does make me a bit concerned that the ceiling is getting lower and lower just because we haven't seen it yet. And we have seen other guys coming back before who are much better out of the gate. So 2 starts in. I don't want to fully have a judgment. I just need to see the third one, I think, for McClanahan more so than I do with Strider, because Strider's just kind of doing the same thing from last year. But I'm not feeling great about it.
And look, it's his second Tommy John surgery, and as he came back from the Tommy John surgery, he has this big setback that ultimately requires another surgery. So he had surgery to repair the nerve
compression.
So it's like,
yeah.
I think the prior should be that, unfortunately, Shane McClanahan is very unlikely to ever be that guy again. And then we're seeing now, at least so far, he's definitely not that guy. That's not to say he can't be, but I'm pretty skeptical at this point.
He is shaking off a lot of rust. Again, like he hasn't pitched. He pitched a little bit in spring training last year. He made a few rehab starts in the minors in the middle of last season, but he really hasn't pitched in competitive games in like 3 years. So I think he could get better and the velocity could tick up a little bit, but I mean we're starting from such a low point here on Shane O'Mac. His ADP in March is 203 as the SP 56, and Nick has him more like SP 65 now, and our consensus rankings SP 66. So I think we're all kind of in agreement there, lower on Shane McClanahan. Grayson Rodriguez, also coming back from a bunch of injuries last year. It started out as a lad, but then he dealt with other arm-related things. He's made 3 starts this spring. The results have been bad. 7 earned runs over 8 innings. He has 6 walks during that time. Another one who just hasn't really pitched in a long time. And his velocity has fluctuated. Like his first 2 starts, velocity was pretty close to where it has been, at least the fastball. And then the third start in spring, Grayson Rodriguez down to 94.1 miles per hour on that fastball. So, Nick, what are you seeing here from Grayson Rodriguez? Any hope here with him on the with the Angels now? I
mean, I'm so down to draft him because with a guy like Grayson Rodriguez and still also with Strider and McClanahan, it's just about the price of it. Grayson isn't getting treated like the other guys. So I'm down to just take him and see if he can recover anything. I mean, our expectations were 0. Okay, the Orioles traded him away for 1 year of Taylor Ward. Like, okay, writing's kind of on the wall there, and at the very least, he does have that 7 feet of extension that he used to have. That's what we saw in that March 7th start. He's supposed to have a really good slider and changeup that's supposed to get it done, and we really haven't seen those return. I don't know. I just want him to be the guy that we envisioned him to be by this point. And he's obviously been disrupted. It's possibly gets better over the next 2 or 3. But if I'm taking him at the end of my draft, like the last round, sure. You know, that's a guy that I'll see one start of him, or maybe even the last spring training start right before before the season starts, after my draft, and I go, you know what? I'm out. I'm good. Great. You can make that quick decision. I'd much rather have a guy like that than someone I would have for a month and would get like one good start, one bad start, and I don't know what to do.
Mm-hmm. Scott, I know when we entered the offseason and draft season, you were pretty just optimistic about Grayson Rodriguez and where his ADP was, again, just going as late as he is. Where are you at now based on, 3 spring starts that we've seen so far?
Well, I was encouraged until the most recent one when the velocity was down on everything and fairly significantly, multiple miles per hour. And so I came out with my Sleepers 2.0 this week. I originally thought I'd put Grayson Rodriguez on it. I decided to leave him off. For now, I got deep sleepers coming out this weekend, and he's going late enough that it's pretty deep. So I may end up including him on that. It's obviously a low-cost gamble on a guy who, just a couple years ago, looked like a top pitching prospect, like the top pitching prospect in the game for 2 consecutive years. He was least in that discussion, and he seemed to be on a good trajectory once he reached the majors, and he just kept having lat issues and eventually had bone spurs removed from his elbow that he thinks he was pitching through that injury for a while. He thinks it contributed to the lat issues, and the velocity looked fine at first. So the wrinkle is that the Orioles gave up on him, and how much do we want to read into that? But in theory, that injury should not ruin him as a pitcher, in theory. And so, if he can stay healthy, then why wouldn't we like him just as much as we did before? It's just his last spring start, his velocity was down a couple miles per hour. But that's the difficulty with all of these pitchers we're talking about. We're trying to read a lot. We obviously want more than just good feelings about him. We don't want to just rely on, okay, I can imagine this optimistic scenario and I'm just going to hope it comes through. We want to see tangible evidence that it's happening, but we're reading into results and data from a level of play that's not true competition. It's not a true competitive environment. So we're having to it's all we have to go on. And so we don't know if we need to treat it at face value or if we can insert a little hope and good feelings in there just based on what we've seen from the guy in the past. I think with injury cases like Grayson Rodriguez and certainly Strider and McClanahan, it's almost like they're starting over again. You can't rely so much on their history, but there is still that history. And so if the price is right, like Nick was saying, knowing that what we're seeing right now isn't really a true representation necessarily of who they are, then it's probably worth gambling on. And the price for Grayson Rodriguez still looks good enough to take that gamble to me, more than the other two, especially Strider.
Now, when it comes to spring training stuff, really quickly, Chris, is that you can really trust the guys who are competing for something or need to prove something more so than the ones who have a secure position, right? So when you see like veterans pitching and they're ramping up, cool. But if you see like a veteran like Zach Eflin, who's a tick up all of a sudden this spring, I get excited because normally you would see that like a tick down. And I'm like, oh, hold on a second. That actually might be something more legitimate if it's over 60 pitches or so, right? Instead of just the 1 or 2. But like Strider, McClanahan, and Grayson, they all are trying to prove that they have this thing again, right? And when that's not performing at that level after the first one, then you get a little bit more worried. It's the same way with a lot of these young guys fighting for that rotation spot. That's how I look at it. For the most part, you are completely right in that, like, so much of these results that we just got to throw out the window. We have to really look at what the pitch shapes are like, what the velocities are, what the usage is, and kind of, figure it out from there.
Yeah, to highlight that point, Roki Sasaki had a great start today. I don't know if you guys saw. It was in a minor league game. He struck out like 9 in 4 innings, and I saw some people like, oh, but it's like he was going against a full minor league lineup. The problem is Baseball Reference has this really neat thing where you can look at the average quality of opponents faced in spring training. And let's see what it is for Spencer Strider. He's made 2 spring starts. His average opponent has been a little better than your average AAA pitcher or player so far. So he is not facing full major league competition. We actually kind of saw this last year with that start that Strider made in spring that got everybody excited. Remember, he had like 7 strikeouts in his first 3 innings in his first start. And then you looked at the lineup and it was like Christian Campbell was the best player in the Red Sox lineup that day. That was maybe a little foreshadowing for what we were about to see from Spencer Strider. But just to be clear, I could not be more out on Roki Sasaki right now.
And you know what? Same could be said for Nick, because honestly, I might have to clip that out as a GIF, because as soon as you said Roki Sasaki, Nick just looked at the camera. He's like, nope, not doing that.
You know, Justin Robelski is the guy. Robo is, he's going to get that rotation spot if you ask me, and nobody's talking about him. I think Justin Robelski is a solid 15-teamer play and might actually be a 12-teamer play.
There was a quote from Dave Roberts today, something like, I have a very hard time seeing Roki Sasaki not in the rotation.
But no, not as a starter, but he didn't say at what level. It could be in the conversation of like as a reliever or as a starter. He goes, no, I see him as a starter, but that doesn't mean
okay. I missed that context. Okay.
It could be for AAA, right? I mean, you have Robelski, who should be done well as a starter for the Dodgers. He's looking good in spring training. You have River Ryan also coming up, not quite as stretched out as Robelski, but I would be shocked. I just don't see how the Dodgers could go, no, we're going to force this instead of the value of Robelski.
I made a joke yesterday. He looks like he's 2 years away from being 2 years away. If you remember that old NBA draft quote, it's pretty rough right now.
Let's talk about Andrew Painter, who had Tommy John surgery and ulnar nerve transposition back on July 25th of 2023. He returned last year, pitched in the minors, did not pitch well, but still a top prospect. He has made 2 starts this spring, 5 shutout, only 1 hit, 1 walk, also only just 1 strikeout. Nick, it's been kind of a weird spring here for Andrew Painter. What have you taken away from his spring outing so far?
You know, what's wild to me is that the Philadelphia Phillies, they are a team that's like, yo, we are competitive. We are like the team. We're going to win the NL East. They are always in it. And then I look at their rotation, and their 4 and 5 are Taijuan Walker, who somehow 3 years later is still finding a way to be a rotation piece for this team. I will never forgive him for kicking out Spencer Turnbull during the peak of his career, and he never got it back.
I remember that.
Never will forgive him for that. And then you have Andrew Painter, who is clearly not the Andrew Painter that you thought he was going to be. I don't care what JT Realmuto said as a quote. That's a sign of a great catcher trying to give his young pitcher confidence at the beginning of spring training. Andrew Painter right now is not the dominant arm that we want him to be. I'm not saying that he can't be in like 2-3 weeks. There's a lot of things to be said about jitters of camp and really trying to lock in all that kind of stuff. Fine. I'll take a chance at the end of my draft because you will get those innings, right? You'll get that opportunity, and that's cool. But dang, this is not like this overpowering pitcher. He throws 96, but it is a hittable 96. He has some cut action on it, sure, but it's not a overwhelming fastball like a Bubba Chandler fastball or anything like that. And then it's all about the secondaries, which are not impressive at the moment. They're not the well-commanded pitches that they used to be. Mm-hmm. So I'm looking at this going, I even thought like Alan Rangel would be a contender for the rotation, and he's not even doing well. So I just sign Giolito. Can you do that, Phillies? Like
they're expecting Zach Wheeler back soon. We hope.
But then it's Taijuan Walker.
Yeah, I mean that's still a total unknown what they're going to get out of Wheeler. So it's a tough spot.
Assuming that Luzardo stays healthy.
Yeah.
Well, they like Luzardo enough to give him $135 million. So.
Great.
Yeah.
Good for him.
I moved Painter into my Sleepers 2.0 column when I wrote it. That was right before he made his first start, but we were getting all these positive reports out of camp, and it's like, this is the type of late round flyer you should take.
Yes.
But right now, it looks like velocity is the only thing that stands out about his fastball. And before the injury, it was 98. Now it's 96. Like, he used to regularly touch triple digits. We don't have the StatCast data for it, but every scouting report says he touched triple digits regularly, and now he doesn't really come all that close. Yeah. And he's not really throwing the secondaries all that much either. So that we also just like can't tell how good they are right now.
It's just no, man. Yeah. It's not working.
How would you guys rank Shane McClanahan, Grayson Rodriguez, and Andrew Painter as just last round flyer types?
McClanahan. Yeah.
I think I'd go McClanahan. You said Grayson in there as well?
Yeah.
McClanahan, Grayson, Painter is how I rank them, but I have McClanahan about 40 picks behind his ADP, which, as you mentioned, is around 200 in the month of March. Grayson, I have around his ADP, which is still around 276. So I would rather have McClanahan, but at price, I would definitely rather have Grayson.
All right, next up here we have George Kirby, who is coming back from that shoulder injury last year. He returned last season, but his arm angle was down last year, and he changed up his pitch mix, and we thought maybe that was related to the shoulder injury. Chris, I feel like we were talking about Kirby just probably yesterday, and you said he has a new pitch, right? Because I was looking through his StatCast stuff, and it doesn't seem like there's a new pitch unless it's just not picking it up correctly.
Yeah, he threw a four-seamer at 94 miles per hour with... so there were two four-seamers at 94. The story I'm reading from Lookout Landing said that the four-seamer at 94 was a cutter, or the fastball at 94 was a cutter. I don't know which one those were because they had very different movement profiles, but he is working on a cutter this spring. He threw it in a game for the first time. He's also throwing a true changeup, not the splitter. We don't have the arm angle data, unfortunately. I'm sure there's a good reason why they don't release it in spring training.
Yeah, so the arm angle data is weird because it's like inferred arm angle right now. And anywhere you see an arm angle for someone, it's not correct. It's not official data, and like on our cards, we don't have them right now because the data is kind of messy with it, and we don't want to put out a wrong arm angle. We don't want to. Yeah, we don't want to do that. So that's why it's like I don't have how you adjust the VA a lot too. It's annoying.
Some people might look at a PLV card and say, his arm angle is the same as last year, and then be corrected that actually it was just because it was last year's.
Yeah, we have sometimes we have it in there, and then we say this is 2025's because we can't tell you.
That's because I don't read. But yeah, he is working on multiple new pitches, but my take was, and I'd love to get Nick's, but my take is mostly, I'm not saying George Kirby is not good anymore. That is not what I'm saying. But I do think because he had the lower arm angle last year and because he's not throwing the splitter again this year, I'm working under the assumption that the arm angle is still lower. I think the movement profile on the pitches is closer to last year than it was pre-injury as well. So I'm working under the assumption that the arm angle is still lower. And what that means for me is that he's just a different pitcher than he was pre-2025. Could be better. I think there's more strikeout upside. Certainly, he's getting more lateral movement on his pitches, but I think he's different. And so that makes it harder to analyze. I don't think you can just say George Kirby before his injury was this really high floor borderline ace. He might still be that. There's just a little more uncertainty in his profile now.
Yeah. Nick, what have you seen from George Kirby? Are you okay with him where he's being drafted? SP 15, the overall ADP is 71.
Yeah, I have George Kirby right around there. Actually, when I did my end of season rankings, which are the ones that are not the official ones, it's just kind of like on vibes, not really diving in too much. George Kirby was like 10. And I remember getting to the whole thing with Kyle Bland, our director of analytics at Pitcherless, saying that George Kirby is better than Christopher Sanchez. And I've stepped back on that one. I'm on Kyle's side at the moment. That said, it's for a good reason why George Kirby was seen so highly by me, and also that Christopher Sanchez, I feel like, just had a peak season. I don't really want to pay for that, but that's another conversation. With George Kirby, his slider is so good. It's so money, and he doesn't even know it. It's not getting the whiffs that we want it to get yet because he's just not quite locating it right. However, we saw multiple starts at the end of last year where George Kirby was nailing that slider down in glove side beautifully. And oh my gosh, that's why you have those like 14 strikeout games. And I know that understanding a movement plot can be very intimidating. I'm going to make this very simple. The dead center of the movement plot is where you expect most sliders at 87. Where his sliders are going at 87 is like where we see curveballs, which is just a diagonal deeper, like more depth and more sweep than expected at the same velocity. And oh gosh, it should work. He's a guy who's always been able to command things well. Like you see how that fastball works. He's also throwing more sinkers to righties as he should, because the four seamer is surprisingly a dead zone fastball. It's not whiffs because he's really good at locating it, but its actual movement when guys would hit it had the number one swing rate of all four seamers. Yeah, they hit it kind of hard because it's an easy to hit four seamer when they know it's coming and know where it's going. So I like that he's going into more sinkers to right-handers. We've seen that already in the spring, and I love his slider, and I still feel so strongly that there's a breakout coming. But that's wish casting, and you can't really wish cast in the top 20. Yeah. You just can't really do that. So I've pushed him down. He's like at 17 or so, and I have to do that beside. I guess he's at 16 because Hunter Greene is not there now.
But, yeah, he's 16 for me as well.
Yeah, it's just I like if he's going at 71, that's actually George Kirby can be the guy, my SP1, because I'm going for my first starter right around there, right at the start of the 6th round is when I'm aiming to go for my starters, because I want to go hitters for the first 5. This is just, I say this every year, hitting versus pitching value in the first 5 rounds is so disproportionate that by the middle rounds, like 10 through 12 or whatever, it's just so far in the other direction that you're better off getting hitters early. So then when I turn to pitchers, George Kirby's often one of the guys that I would gravitate to.
All right, let's take our final break. When we return, we've got some other spring performances to talk about, some risers. We'll do that right after this.
You think you understand how this business works, but you don't.
I now know why Mommy was so stressed.
What's the plan here?
Landman. New season now streaming only on Paramount Plus.
Welcome back in Fantasy Baseball. Today we're here talking pitching with buddy Nick Pollack, who is a McClanahan fan, as you can see if you're watching on YouTube. One more name to talk about before we get to some of these big risers. Cam Schlittler, I want to ask you about this big cutter velocity increase that we saw in his spring debut. 2 1/3 shutout innings, 4 strikeouts, had 6 whiffs on 39 pitches, 4 of those on the cutter. And he threw that cutter a bunch, basically doubled the usage of that pitch in this one outing here. He averaged 94.9 miles per hour on that cutter. And Nick, one thing that I think on this podcast, at least, we've kind of collectively worried a little bit about is just how much Cam Schlittler's velocity has jumped up over the past 2 seasons. And now he shows up to spring and his cutter's 95 miles per hour. So I don't know if that's a good thing. Does it open up more risk for injury? What do you think?
It's so filthy, though. And he's a better pitcher. Like I say this a lot about sophomore pitchers. I'm generally more inclined to go for them just because oftentimes they have a foundation that they laid down that isn't their final form. And when they're in good organizations, you'll see that over the offseason, they'll be given a new plan. They'll be given something new in the spring, and then they'll crystallize, right? More in that full season as a starter. And that makes me so amped for Cam Schlittler because we've already seen him embrace sinkers to right-handers a little bit as well. It's not the greatest sinker, like it's bad horizontal movement, but it's great that he's throwing that because now he has 3 fastballs in the zone for strikes, and that's really good. Now, you also have an 85-mile-per-hour curveball with great movement. So it's all there. It's just, yeah, I'm terrified too. And I really don't know what to do because I want to say there's a high injury risk with Cam Schlittler. He hasn't been injured, right? I mean, there was the delay at the beginning of the season, but that was nothing. I mean, that
was a back thing. It wasn't.
That was your typical, hey, it's my first time at spring. Oh, I'm still a little like getting out of bed, you know? That is not a actual issue. And I mean, look at Joe Ryan right now. He's fine. So I'm with you though. Like it's so scary that Cam Schlittler could get hurt, but everyone could get hurt.
Everyone can get hurt. Yeah.
I don't know what to do.
Well, I mean, I think this
torn.
gets to what we always talk about when we're talking about injuries is any velocity increase probably carries injury risk. But injury risk is not the only kind of risk. And I think that is something that we talk about too much where, okay, injury risk might be higher, but if it makes him a better pitcher, then it probably is worth rolling the dice. And then with Cam Schlittler, it's like the injury risk the apparent injury risk, or what we're implying is injury risk, just comes from he used to not throw as hard and now he throws harder. We think that leads to more injury risk. It probably does, but when you're talking about other pitchers who have dealt with injuries, I don't really like. Is Jesus Luzardo a better bet to stay healthy than Cam Schlittler? Given Jesus Luzardo missed time with a fractured back, has missed tons of time with shoulder and elbow injuries over the years. Like, are we sure he's a better bet to stay healthy? Is Yuri Perez a better bet to stay healthy than Cam Schlittler? Maybe because he had the UCL replaced, but
it was like the perfect rehab was last year.
Is Chase Burns, who has not had the UCL replacement? Is Nick Pivetta, who's currently dealing with arm fatigue? Like, you can go through all of these guys and come up with reasons why they all have risk. I think Nick Pivetta has significant performance risk. Pivetta has been dealing with arm fatigue in spring training.
Since when?
2 days ago, I think.
No. How did I miss this?
It doesn't sound serious. Everybody downplayed it, so it's probably fine. It's probably just like normal spring
I've
January.
been really in on Pivetta. Like, understanding what he did last year and then seeing now what he's doing in the spring, I'm just like, this guy is a completely different pitcher, and he's been such a rock as far as workload goes.
Or like, you know who's going ahead of Cam Schlittler, who definitely has injury risk at more than him? Tyler Glasnow's about a round or 5 picks ahead of Cam Schlittler.
I agree with that. I agree with that for 12
good.
teamers.
He's great. He's a really good pitcher, but he's never thrown more than 134 innings at the major league level, and he's like 33. We got to assume that's probably the ceiling.
Question.
Yes.
This is something I wrestle with a ton. I don't have a good answer. I don't know really how to treat it. Let's say you get 130 innings from Glasnow, right? The quality of inning for Glasnow is far more guaranteed than Schlittler.
Yeah.
Right? And in a 12-teamer, especially considering that he's healthy now, that is so valuable because the replacement level quality is higher than I think it's ever been. I mean, the past, like last year was so high, and now it's still incredibly high, that Glasnow, with that super high quality of performance that you can lock in, plus that replacement, is really good.
Yeah.
And it's, to me, I'm going for that a lot in my drafts, especially my 12-teamers that have IL slots. And like, I see him as like an SP 2.5.
Well, and the thing with Glasnow is when he pitches, we talked about this, I think, when we did our all head-to-head versus all roto, maybe. When Glasnow pitches, he is phenomenal on a per-start basis. This is not an innings limit thing like Trey Savage, where you might have a whole month where you just can't use.
Right.
Tyler Glasnow is going to be awesome. You're going to start him every single time, and then he's going to get hurt and miss some time. And you'll have, I mean, you look at the ADP, outside the top 300, you've got like Robbie Snelling's going to be up at some point. Parker Messick and Will Warren looks pretty interesting. Like there are interesting guys that you can replace him in a 12-team league. In a 15-team league, it does get harder to.
Different in 15, yes.
Maybe I'm putting too much emphasis on last year. I've talked about this a lot with Glasnow, but there was some skill decline. The walks went up, the swing strike rate went down.
The slider was worse. But now he has a new one, which is a harder slider, which I think is going to make it so he throws more strikes with it. So I feel a little bit better about it.
Last point on Cam Schlittler, and this is completely anecdotal. I'm like just trying to think of reasons why this would work. I guess probably more so as a Yankee fan, but being 6'6", like maybe he could just take on more velocity and workload just because he's like a massive human being. Like, I don't know. It works for Paul Skeens, right? Like, so I don't know. I don't
work for Bailey Ober.
Yeah, it works until it doesn't.
But yeah, it's fair. We'll see. Nick has Cam Schlittler SP25, by the way, or around there, but higher than all the other kind of second-year pitchers: Nolan McLean, Bubba Chandler, Trey Savage, Mizurowski, and even Chase Burns.
I would have Chase Burns higher if it were not for the flexor strain last year, which I understand could be kind of like your false, your Dodgeritis kind of injury.
Just a little bit.
Or like that is really just to limit his innings or so. But I have to flag that as already a thing. So he gets a ding for that.
Yeah, I think it was a grade 0.5.
Yeah.
Bad job by me. I probably should have mentioned Scott is having internet issues. We haven't just ignored him for the last 20 minutes.
He's just holding his tongue. He's just really trying not to be disagreeable this whole time.
Yeah, we appreciate that, Scott. But yeah, he's dealing with some internet stuff. Let's move into some spring risers here. And I guess we could do a little rapid fire with these names. And Mick Abel is a name that has performed very well this spring. This is one where in the past I might have overreacted to. I'm trying not to overreact, trying to just react because he's looked really good. But came over from the Twins. Nope, came
Phillies.
over to the Twins from the Phillies in the Yohan Duran trade last year. He has thrown 10 shutout innings, 13 strikeouts to just 5 base runners, tons of swinging strikes here. Roster resource now has Mick Abel in the Twins rotation, Zebby Matthews on the outside. So I don't know if that's based on any reporting. I haven't seen that. Maybe it's just based on performance. But Nick, are you buying what we've seen from Mick Abel?
I have been a Mick Abel fan since I saw him with the Phillies, and I think I want to even say before this, like in spring training of 2024, I want to say. And it's kind of funny because you look at the Phillies rotation right now, you know who they could use? Mick Abel. And the Mick Abel guy is so good. I love his four-seamer. He commands it so well upstairs. It is flat. It kills it there. He has a sinker he goes inside with. And he has these breaking balls that need a little bit more polish. I'm same with the changeup, but it's just a great package. And I do innately think he's a command pitcher. So the second that he's starting, I want him in my 12 teamers. I think this is not someone who I call a hipster, a headache inducing pitcher stifling the entire roster. That is someone that I'm talking about before of like, he does well for one game, but he's so inefficient that he doesn't do well the next one. You don't know what to do. And now you're missing all the other guys you could be grabbing instead. That would be Zebby Matthews. Zebby Matthews, though, I feel like still should be in the rotation. Even though he had that bad game against Atlanta, he had a really unfortunate first inning. And then he came back out because he was removed from that one because of spring. And then he came back out and he did well for the next couple innings. And I think that Taj Bradley shouldn't be in there, but whatever. I don't think that Simeon Woods Richardson is looking very good right now. His velocity is way down at 91 instead of like the 93, 94 that we saw last year. And I just think that Zebby and Mick Abel should both be there. But I would love for Mick Abel to be there. He hasn't pitched as much as far as like pitches in games as you'd want to see. But yeah, I would be very interested in taking him as a flyer. I've actually been considering pushing him up into the 70s or 80s because, like I was saying before, you want those easy decisions. Is he in the rotation? He's on my team still. Is he not? He's off my team. You don't want that. We'll wait around, and he's my SB5 who goes against the Dodgers the first week, so I won't start him, and now I don't have a start from this roster spot for 10 days, and I still don't even know if it's good or bad. You want to avoid that situation as much as possible.
Mm-hmm. And Mick Abel's ADP so far in March, still very late, 378, but it was outside the top 500 in February. So now with this performance, he is firmly on people's radar, and he's moving up. And I think as, a last pick in a draft before we know whether or not he's on a team. If he doesn't make the team, you can cut him or stash him. But once he gets called up, man, I think there's a lot of excitement there with Mick Abel.
I just want to say, Frank, you were saying you're trying not to overreact to spring, and it's good. We've been working on this.
Yeah, that was one of my New Year's resolutions. Don't overreact to spring.
But when I wrote my spring training, believe it or not, column yesterday. Today's Tuesday, right? Yeah, yesterday. I had Mick Abel is the biggest spring training riser for pitchers, and Matt McClain is the biggest spring training riser for hitters. And I did believe it for Mick Abel and don't believe it for Matt McClain. And the big distinction there is Mick Abel was starting around 500 in ADP, and Matt McClain was starting around 220. So the opportunity cost of raising Mick Abel in your rankings is nothing. You are going from undrafted in 15-team leagues to, sure, let's throw a flyer at him. And so that's the kind of movement that I think you should embrace, even if you're skeptical of Mick Abel. And I've never been a huge fan of his as a prospect, but, if I'm looking at the last pick of my draft and it's like, well, Jameson Taillon's in the rotation and he's boring but helpful. It's like, no, I'd rather take the chance on Mick Abel every time.
Taillon does not deserve those strays, okay?
It's
all right?
just,
he does not.
Look, he's a useful player, but like if you don't have Jameson Taillon on your team, are you going to look back in June and be like, oh, no, that's why my team is terrible? I didn't draft Jameson Taillon.
He did have a sub-4 ERA last year.
Yeah.
It's nice pitching for the Cubs. Cade Horton, I know he didn't have a good game today. I think it was like 6 earned runs or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I actually really like what Cade Horton does. I think he could be he's a little bit overlooked, I think, because it is a very good situation in Chicago.
Yes.
And he could develop.
Yeah, I've kind of just been blindly drafting a lot of their pitchers. Like Shota Imanaga, I've been back on this year too.
Velocity's back up, and like I think everyone's overreacting to the fact that the Cubs released him or didn't take the deal.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't believe that they didn't. Honestly, that just made no sense to me personally. But it looks like they wanted to sign 1-year deals, and because of that, everyone fell off.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sitting there being like, "Why? What are we doing here, guys?" I feel like John Travolta. With his jacket. So I'm in on Shota Imanaga too.
Even the bad year was this sub 1 whip?
Right. That's whip is overlooked.
Yeah, whip is so hard to find. Like even if he's just a 4 ERA pitcher, but the whip is 1, like that's useful.
He was a 3.7 with the higher home run per 9. And he still had that like 101 whip.
Yep. Yep. I think we're on agreement. We're in agreement there. 2 names that I've been kind of pumping up as, breakout sleeper types this year. And, they are on the rise. About 20, 30 picks so far in March compared to their February ADP. Mike Burrows, who was traded over to the Astros this offseason in that 3-team trade that sent Brandon Lau to the Pirates. And Braxton Ashcraft, who has a clear opportunity here in the Pirates rotation as well. So, Nick, do you find yourself interested in buying the rise on these 2, Mike Burrows with the Astros, Braxton Ashcraft with the Pirates?
I think these are the 2 most talked about, like past 300 pick starters. And I'm not drafting either one in all likelihood. I mean, Burrows, I'm fine with. Like, I would be happy to take a chance on Burrows and just see what happens there. But I don't, this isn't like Musgrove and Cole and Charlie Morton going from the Pirates to the Astros here. Okay, this is a changeup first right-hander who has an improved slider. Like the Astros have fixed it a little bit as we've seen so far. And the fastballs, well, when he throws 6 innings are not 95, 96. He didn't throw deep into games last year. So a lot of those numbers that you see from last season are inflated because he's not having to go deeper into games. And I think it can be fine. But I don't think we're all of a sudden going to see the ceiling of like a top 40 guy or anything like that. With Braxton Ashcraft, he has a dead zone 4-seamer. It's what I call empty velocity, where you throw hard, but it's not a swing strike rate pitch. And you go, why not? It throws 97, 98, whatever. What's going on? It's because it has movement that's very hittable. There's nothing deceptive about it. It doesn't have a flat attack angle. It doesn't have that rise to it, all that stuff. Doesn't have great extension. So it's just a slider that's really good. And yeah, that it's pretty much just a slider that's really good. Great. I have a thing called the Wasker-Noah rule, which is if you throw hard and you have an elite slider and a hittable fastball and that's it, you don't go for it.
Hey, we had that one Dinelson Lamet year.
Yeah, oh man. Well, Lamet was like multiple breakers and like the fastball was like 99 and better than Inoa, Oh god, that was 2020 a bit, right? And like maybe 21.
Yeah, he was a top 10 pitcher in 2020. Yeah.
Oh, that was so cool. But yeah, I am not in on either one. Also, I would say with the Pirates, sure, they should get more wins and it's a nice park in PNC, but like that's not, you don't want to draft innately Pirates pitchers because it is a lower win situation. They are also not teams that let their younger guys go deeper into games, right? So the whole thing combined, I mean, Ashcraft and Burrows both have not proven themselves to be consistent 6-inning pitchers. And when you're drafting later on, look back at last year's sleepers, the guys who went deeper in ADP, who were not drafted in your 12-teamers. The ones that overperformed, Matthew Boyd, Merrill Kelly, Noah Cameron, Andrew Abbott, Ranger Suarez. What do all of them have in common? Pretty much all lefties. Lefties was changeups, but they all were 90-pitch guys.
Yeah.
Consistently going 6 innings. Volume, that has potential to be quality is way better than quality that has potential for innings.
Yeah, I mean, and the Pirates remember, we were complaining about it. There was a point in July, I think, when the Pirates were babying Paul Skeens again. Like they were playing games about his workload 2 years in when he's clearly the best pitcher in baseball, or one of the three best pitchers in baseball at least. Like the Pirates are very cautious about their young pitchers. So yeah, that's a concern.
He is the best pitcher in baseball. I'm sorry, Scooble.
Oh,
It's fair.
Yeah.
Ashcraft, by the way, you mentioned his slider. His curveball is really good too, Nick. I mean, it's
that's what I was thinking. I was trying to make sure I wasn't confusing him with Moldinski for a second, but I think both of them have a really good curveball. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's got the two good breakers. He does throw hard, but yeah, the
Good
fastball
stuff.
does tend to get tagged there a little bit for Braxton Ashcraft. I've got 5 other names here, Nick, that I know that you had some level of opinion on, and so I'll just throw them all your way. Cody Ponce, he signed a 3-year, $30 million deal with the Blue Jays this offseason. He's returning from the KBO. We have 2 Guardians that are competing for rotation spots in Joey Cantillo and Parker Messick. And then Cade Cavalli, who might be on the worst team in baseball, but former top prospect, and he's got a nasty curveball. So what do you got here on Cavalli, the Guardians guys, and Cody Ponce?
So Ponce and Ryan Weiss are, I mean, it's often what you do. You get these KBO guys and you just kind of compare them together. The one thing that we often do see, though, is they are allowed to go deeper into games. And when they're signed for these cheaper deals like this, the reason teams get them are to be innings eaters. And I see Cody Ponce in Toronto as just like, great. We want this. We want like an innings guy when we don't know if we were going to get so many good innings from Burrows. We just signed Scherzer, but who knows how much that's going to last. We're slowing down you Savage, let alone the health of everyone else in there too, right? So, okay, he's going to be going for a bit. He's 95-96 with a great breaking ball and a really nice changeup. Like, awesome. Oh, wait, that's also Ryan Weiss. And Ryan Weiss is going for the Astros. And look at that rotation. I mean, McCullers somehow went like 50-plus pitches today, which I can't believe. But there's Arrighetti in there too, and Christian Javier is looking bad. And it might be a 6-man because Amaya is around. And again, all those injured guys. So yeah, you're going to need Ryan Weiss to get innings. And because they're unknown, because they're not understood, it's a great thing because we know that they're not bad, like definitively bad. That's not the case with them. So go chase that opportunity and hopefully that the quality is actually going to match it. So I'm in on those. Cantillo and Parker Messick, they both might be in the rotation because Logan Allen might be out. He should be out. If anyone's been following the Guardians, I mean, Logan Allen is clearly the worst of those 3 southpaws. The only reason we haven't been considering Messick is because Allen has been getting more of the early opportunities. However, he pitched for, I believe it was Canada. He started and he allowed 5 walks. And it was kind of like you're hoping that your parents didn't see you, when you're out with your friends or something like that. Like, oh, I hope they don't tell my parents about that one. And now that you have him in relief. So like now Allen's just going like 1 inning for, I believe it's Canada, right? And that's not what you want for like your SP5. Meanwhile, Parker Messick just went and he went over 50 pitches. And I'm like, all right, he's in the rotation. And so is Cantillo. And I would rather have Parker Messick because Cantillo does not have good command. He has a really filthy changeup. It's a Vulcan change. If you know anything about Vulcan changeups, is that they're thrown like this. And if you try to make the Vulcan sign and stick a baseball between those fingers, you can realize how inconsistent this is. You can throw 10 great ones, but then you'll throw 5 bad ones too. And it's why Cantillo, with a bad fastball he can't command, is going to be more volatile. He's going to have those 8 strikeout games that are great, and then he's going to have some weird ones, while Parker Messick has much better command. So I'm a fan of Messick, and that's a Guardians team that likes to let their guys go. So Parker Messick, beautiful. And Cade Cavalli, no, he has a really good curveball. I love it. He breaks the Wasker-Yanoa rule. 4-seamer's bad. The sinker can be good, but I don't really think that there's anything else except that curveball. And it's just such a bad team. It's a bad defense too. It's why I'm also not touching the Angels guys really for the most part. I mean, I should have mentioned that with Grayson Rodriguez. Jose Soriano, the number 1 ground baller in the league, had the worst defense. No wonder he had such a high whip, right?
Yep.
Like that's just how it goes. So yeah, avoid the Nationals in the same way. One
thing on the Guardians, guys, because I'm a big Parker Messick fan. I just think Parker Messick is already their third best pitcher. I don't really.
Oh
think
yeah, Slate. Yeah, over Slate,
think,
absolutely.
I don't think Slate Ciccone should be a lock for the rotation at all, personally.
But
the
he is.
thing that really helps Cantillo, right?
Cantillo.
Cantillo.
It is Cantillo.
Really?
Yeah.
It's Italian, so it's Cantillo. Yeah.
Yeah, it's that was surprising.
People have misled me.
And Cantillo does not have an option. Logan Allen, Slade Ciccone, and Parker Messick all have options. I mean, Logan Allen, you can toss him in the bullpen if you want. They have a couple of lefties in there. Also, just start him at AAA. I think if they're going their best five, Parker Messick should be in there, no question. I think Parker Messick is actually real. I'm a big Parker Messick fan.
Yeah,
so.
you're right. I totally thought it was Allen who didn't have the option.
Yeah.
Oh, great call, Chris.
Assuming roster resources is right.
No. I mean, yeah, Logan Allen has one option.
Yeah. So
Logan Allen is not very good.
Yeah, that's the one that he should probably just start in AAA. I think Parker Messick's really good. He threw like 150 innings, I think, last year. So I don't think there are really any innings concerns for
command.
him.
Force was always at the top of the zone beautifully.
I think if he was guaranteed a rotation spot, I might rank Parker Messick as like a top 50 SP.
I won't put him at top 50. I would have him around where like Noah Cameron-esque. So it's like late 50s, early 60s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And if you are into the bulldog type pitcher, I mean, he is a fiery dude, man. If you've watched Parker Messick, he is kind of a wild boy. So he's a fun one to watch on the mound as well. Some deep league names here, Nick. Wanted to quickly ask you about some of these. The Cardinals trio: Matthew Liberatore, Richard Fitz, Kyle Leahy. Right now, roster resource has Liberatore and Leahy in the rotation. Richard Fitz on the outside looking in, but they've all done kind of interesting things this spring. Any thoughts here on those three?
You know, all three should be in the rotation, and Andre Ponce should just not. Okay? Ponce should just no. I'm so sorry. I'm happy that he's moving away from the cut four-seamer because it's just not good. And the slider, he threw like 50% of the time, and it's much better. Sure. But with those three, actually, I was messaging Eno about this. I was doing my write-up for the Cardinals, and then I realized that Kyle Leahy had Braxton Ashcraft's slider. And I go, whoo. If anyone will like that, it's Eno, because Eno has like Ashcraft in like the top 60 or something like that. And now that was more so in relief than it was as a starter, so we shouldn't expect the same velocity. Then again, I do want to mention that Braxton Ashcraft didn't go very long in games last year either. But Leahy is, I think Leahy is, from a stuff standpoint, is far better than I certainly gave him credit last year. And Fitz went today, did not do as well. Maybe it was yesterday. I can't remember one of the two. Matthew Liberatore, though, amazing sleeper. Like I really can't emphasize enough. How many pitchers can you think of who you know can get the pearl and go every 5 days and be trusted for 6 innings by their team, right? Okay, it used to be like Jake Irvin. Fine, don't draft Jake Irvin. But Liberatore is better than that, and he does fluctuate his velocity, but we just saw him at 94 to 95. Cutter's getting inside to right-handers as he does when he's at his peak, working in the changeup as well. The slider had like 8 over 13 whiffs to lefties. It was a bad lineup. Just want to say it was a bad lineup. I think it was against the Orioles, and there was Kobe Mayo and everyone else, and then no one. It's I think Liberatore is a really good 15-team ad. Kyle Leahy is interesting. I think that he's going to be less efficient than I want him to be. And Fitz is routine for having like really exciting velocity at first and then disappointing you. So I am cautious with the Richard Fitz right now.
I'm going to mention another name. He's flying under the radar now, but he had a lot of hype this time last year, and he's looked pretty good this spring. Quinn Matthews, I am a big believer in Quinn Matthews. Hopefully the shoulder's healthy. His velocity was way down last year, but it's back up higher than it was in 2024. Quinn Matthews, still a interesting sleeper.
Okay, I agree with you. I'm not.
I don't know who was I
you watch the
supposed to
video,
say?
you'll see me reacting because you teed it up
was
so
it Dustin
perfectly.
May?
You knew
'Cause I've
exactly
never-
what you were going to say.
I've never been a Dustin May
do in
believer.
sync over here because it was going to be May, and that's what I thought you were going to say.
I'm not a Dustin May believer.
But here's the thing. the Cardinals defense, great. I know it's no more Arenado,
Sure, but
it's still a very good situation. Great park. Pitching in NL Central is just kind of proven to be good. Believe it or not, pitching in Miller Park, and I'll always call it that, is a good thing for pitchers. I know that sounds crazy, but they get more strikeouts there almost as much as the Mariners, which is nuts. It's better for pitchers. You have PNC Park in there as well. Sure, the Reds, whatever. Wrigley is actually generally more beneficial for pitchers than it is harmful. So Dustin May, ground ball guy, in a finally like a relaxed scenario. He was asked to do so much with the Dodgers, all these people in his ear, goes to the Red Sox, has to prove that he's worthy of this trade that was the most ridiculous thing ever. And now he just gets to coast in St. Louis. So I'll tell you this, that Dustin May probably won't be that guy that you really want in April. As the season goes on, I think he's going to find his groove and actually be a decent 12-teamer play.
Yeah, he's no Quinn Matthews, but that's fine.
I think Quinn Matthews is ultimately better, but he's not pitching.
Yeah.
He's not going to be in the rotation, yeah.
Right.
Nick, you mentioned the Brewers in there and pitching in Miller Park. We know that they're dealing with some injuries right now. Quinn Priester has a wrist issue. Logan Henderson dealing with an elbow. He had the flexor tendon last year as well. So, look, they have some depth. Could be interesting depth. What do you think about Kyle Harrison and Brandon Sproat potentially stepping into the Brewers rotation?
Well, Sproat is interesting. There's also Robert Gasser there, of course, too. Chad Patrick. Kyle Harrison, I'll start with, though, is, the changeup is new. It's better. What's so funny to me is that the last game that we saw with Kyle Harrison against for the Giants was in Coors, and he had this changeup that was just amazing. And it was Coors as well, which kind of weirds movement too. So it might have actually been a similar-esque changeup. I don't know. Actually, I do, and I'll get to that in a second. He goes then to the Red Sox, and we're saying, well, he's going to learn a cutter now and all this stuff. And he abandons this changeup. And I was just go, what just happened? We were on the verge of this, and it gets stripped away. Kind of like Nate Carnes when all of a sudden he was throwing breaking balls half the time, had these 3 great games, then blew out his shoulder, and that was the last we ever heard of him. That's a throwback. Okay.
Yeah, I don't remember that one.
Yeah, Kansas City Royals. Anyway, you have also him now with the Giants in the offseason before the trade. Or not the Giants, I'm sorry, with the Red Sox before the trade. He's actually learning this changeup now from someone from the Giants, and it wasn't the Brewers who taught him this changeup. But it's great. It's a really good changeup. He doesn't command it super well yet, and that's always been the biggest issue. However, I do think that there's something in the water there with Milwaukee of at least nailing down approaches at the very least. So I think it's a very good situation for him. And I'll be completely honest with you. The thing I'm most jazzed about is the camera angle. He's going to have such a good camera angle pitching in Milwaukee. I was excited for it with the Red Sox because they have arguably the best left-handed one, but finally didn't really get much of that. But it is really good for Milwaukee. And Brandon Sproat, I just want to see him get volume. I mean, I think he's a perfect case of, hey, you have a fastball sweeper combination. You need a little bit more, but over time, I think that you'll find a rhythm, you'll find a way to attack lefties effectively, etc. And you throw him into Milwaukee, beautiful. Just get him settled. But how much time is Priester and Woodruff going to actually miss? How much time is he really going to get in that rotation? I don't know.
Yeah.
So as far as a draft goes, Harrison, I take the flyer on. Sproat, I don't know. I'm a little bit more tepid there.
Yeah, it's kind of a wait and see approach and maybe a stash once the season starts, or just pick him up whenever he gets called up for Brandon Sproat there. Last 2 names here, big velo jumps, but I mean, these are in the deepest of leagues. Carson Whisenhunt with the Giants, Randy Vasquez with the Padres. Big velocity jumps this spring. Do either matter, Nick?
Okay, so I'm so happy you mentioned Randy Vasquez. You have no idea. Well, okay, Carson Whisenhunt, I'll get out of the way. Big velocity jump, swatch type, who's throwing like 92, right? Southpaw with a tight changeup. Kind of watched them and you're like, this should work like all the other guys. And it just kind of wasn't. But then all of a sudden when he's throwing 94 or 96, like that should change things, but you just can't locate it right now. And it's a common thing of like, I can throw harder, but now I don't know where it goes. So that's cool. The Giants have all their guys. And actually, I will say Tyler Mahle is a wonderful sweet sleeper over there.
I got him in NL Labor. Let's go, Nick.
I just got him in TGFBI at like 320 or something. I'm stoked about it. And Also, Adrian Hauser for your deeper NL only leagues. Like I would go for that too.
I got him too.
Yeah, it's a great situation. Also, Mahle, like homers is the problem, but then again, you remember he was part of Cincinnati before, and like on the Twins, and then you have Oracle Park. He pitched well in Arlington. I don't know. I think it's pretty safe there. But with Whisenhunt, yeah, you have other guys in the way. You're gonna have Tidwell probably beforehand because you saw Tidwell going up against Landon Roop, both battling for the 5th spot. So you often see that in spring training when the manager throws both their guys in the same game for the same amount of innings. And Roop going first means he has the inside lane. He hasn't lost it. It's going to be him. Tidwell is probably going to be second, and then it's Whisenhunt. So Whisenhunt will get his time to work on the polish with that, and we'll talk about that later. But Randy Vasquez, I actually got to talk to people close to Randy about like what's been going on and everything. And his arsenal is so different now. It's so cool. He throws 2 ticks harder. Really, he's just been like doing stuff with like training and everything like that. Just simple like development and all that with the Padres. And he has a cutter now that has 7 inches of cut. And I don't think you guys really can grasp like how good that is at 89 miles per hour. Like normal sliders that we see at 89 are like 0 inches of cut. Like it's normally like that gyro I was talking about before is 0-0. And to see that he gets that extra 7 is a ton of movement. He can't wrangle it yet, but it just showcasing that he has that is super exciting. There's a really good curveball that he's trusting now as well. And what we saw with him with the Yankees and initially with the Padres is that he knows how to jam that sinker inside to right-handers. Great. He has a 4-seamer now that he can flirt upstairs and actually be a whiff pitch later in counts at 2 strikes. There's a changeup that's actually looking pretty good. Like, wait a second. Randy Vasquez out of nowhere is looking like a very, very solid arm. And he was really good at leaving guys on base last year. Like, he is someone who knows how to pitch the contact already and get out and like induce weaker contact than others. You throw in more velocity, you throw in that kind of cutter that doesn't need to be precise. It just needs to be in the zone, like a 2-0 pitch you throw it to a righty. And all of a sudden you dribble it to third base and there you go. You're out of the inning. Like this, there's so much potential in this. And he's the SB4. He's not even the 5. Like he's locked.
There's a lot of opportunity there. Yeah.
And that is a good offense and like good defense. And like in San Diego in April and May is a great place to pitch. Oh my gosh. We saw last year Michael King gain like 23 inches of horizontal movement because of how ridiculous San Diego gets with the humidity and everything. Like, I don't want to go out too far in a limb, but everything I'm seeing right now about this is just saying this is the clear, like absolutely out of nowhere sleeper is Randy Vasquez right now. It's so wild. I just want to see like 1 or 2 more spring starts before I really stamp that one.
My long-running faith in the Scott White Dynasty League and Randy Vasquez is finally paying off, baby.
Because he gained 2 ticks of velocity in the offseason. Everyone knew it was going to come, right, Chris?
I mean, look, that is a team that I took over like 7 years ago.
Oh, my gosh.
And I have never been able to bring myself to fully commit to rebuilding. And so I have had no pitching for years. But Randy Vasquez and Reed Detmers are going to carry me to victory this year.
Look, I have the Reed Detmers no-hitter bobblehead. Okay? I have that, and I want him to be so good, but
it's a 24-team league. The pickings are slim.
I'm hoping, but like first and foremost, that defense is terrible. He's got to be better than better.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm not expecting much, but
I hope he hasn't. I hope it's good. Get that changeup back working, you know? That would be great.
He is Nick Pollack. Make sure to follow him on X at PitcherList. You can follow him on Blue Sky as well. Find all of his work over at pitcherlist.com. And Nick, just remind people again where they can find your streams and everything else you've got.
Well, the number one thing you got to do is get our subscription, PL Plus. It's $5 a month. And what you get is all of our staff just answering all your questions. You get to hang out with Chris Towers in our Discord. You get to hang out with me, of course, and Scott Chu and Rick Graham and Nate Schwartz and Kyle Bland and everybody. And you get an ad-free version of our website where we have all of the daily content that you want, including my SB Roundup, every day going over all 30 pitchers and that started last night and what you should be doing with them. So go check that out. It's PL Plus, $5 a month, guys.
All right, we're going to wrap there for Nick, Chris, Scott, and his internet. I am Frank. Thanks as always for tuning into Fantasy Baseball today. Please make sure to follow and leave a 5-star rating on Apple or Spotify, and we will be back again tomorrow. Bye-bye.